Yeah, that popped and it yanked my arm back, so I think this one has a sheared flywheel key. So it probably will run as long as it doesn't have a bent crank. So let's get into that. Alright, let's get into the flywheel key here and see if it actually is sheared and what we can do about it. These are 8mm shoulder bolts that hold this gas tank. I'm just going to rotate this out of the way. I'm not going to take this one off down here. Maybe I will. That's a 3/8 inch bolt down there that holds that. There is a bolt and a spacer that goes along with that. Now that should just fall out of the way there. There's still gas in this tank. That'll be fine. And next we are going to take this tin off. Wipe some of the crud away from the oil filler tube where it connects so that when I pull it off to rotate it so I can get the shroud off, it doesn't fall into the crankcase. Alright, now this whole tin with the recoil assembly should come free. Like that. This has got a air vane governor assembly, air vane choke assembly. Alright. So generally I would be using one of these impact guns to take this nut off with a impact socket, but as the children are upstairs sleeping right now, allowances must be made. So I'm going to try and jam the blade through the side discharge with a 2x4 and use a breaker bar and a regular socket to take this nut off. We'll see how that goes. Alright, let's see how this works. There we go. Huh. That's interesting. The blade is loose. That's really not going to work, is it now? So not only is the flywheel key sheared, but the blade adapter key is sheared. So I managed to get the blade adapter off, and the key was the keyway was sheared right off. I have never seen that happen before. That's a pretty hard hit. And here is the blade. You can see on the bottom, it definitely hit something hard. It looks like it's probably a curb, if I had to guess. I don't know, but I don't know that this blade is coming back either. So, the flywheel key is sheared, and so is the blade adapter, but I believe the crankshaft may be okay. It looks like it's not bent, just on visual inspection. That doesn't mean that there is some run out to it, so I think I'm going to measure the run out, and then we'll go from there. Alright, shaky cam time, but it looks like what I thought was true probably is, and that's that the 2 keyways saved this crankshaft. Because if you look, I'm going from that main keyway to back to the main keyway, and it is maybe 5 thousandths out. There's crud on it as well. It doesn't look that bad. Yeah, I think we're gonna go with that. It looks good. So I'm gonna see if I have a different blade adapter that will fit, and then maybe I can put this blade on and then get the flywheel nut off. Well, unfortunately, the only Craftsman blade adapter spare one I have is from a mower that had a slightly smaller crankshaft. So it is not going to work. I am probably going to have to order one of these. I guess maybe that's number 193707. And this one is what? 851514. So yeah, let me go price that out and see how much that's going to cost. So I'm kind of at a point now where I really need the impact gun. There is no way I am getting that nut off without an impact gun or a good blade adapter. So I think I'm going to call it for the night. I've already spent probably at least half an hour on this, and that's more than I wanted to spend on a, cheap mower like this. So I'm going to continue this tomorrow when I can use the impact gun. All right, we have air tools. Well, that was easy. You can see the key there, and here is a slot in the top of the crank. So definitely sheared a little bit, not as much as I thought, but enough that it would not run. All right, let's get this thing off. So a lot of people I see, they stick a pry bar underneath the flywheel and they pry up while they smack the crankshaft with a hammer, and there's a little bit of play in the crankshaft, and so you lift it up and then you smack it and hope the crankshaft goes down a little bit so that the flywheel pops off. The way that the manufacturer, Briggs & Stratton, says to do it is to tap these two holes with a 1/4 inch by 20 pitch tap and use a puller. So put 2 bolts down and push on the crankshaft and pull the flywheel off. So I've done it both. Well, actually, I've usually done the pry bar and the smacking the crankshaft to get this thing off, but I think today I'm going to try and use a puller on it and see how that goes. My experience is that when the flywheel key shears, it gets material, like pieces of the key get smushed in between the flywheel and the crank, and it's even harder to pull off after that. And so I usually have to, whack it really hard to get this thing to pop. So I don't know if that's very good for the crankshaft or anything like that. So why don't we try the puller method? All right, I got my 1/4 inch by 20 tap all set up. And actually seems a little bit loose, but we will try it. See if this turns in. I think it will. Oh, let's try the other one. Yeah, I think that's gonna work. Let me see what I have in terms of a puller. Alright, what I think I'm gonna try is I'm gonna try this puller. So these flange bolts with washers fit in there. A little bit loose, but I think it's gonna work. See if I can get this set up. Alright, let's see if we can center this on the crank. And let's see if we can get it rather level. This one needs to come out a tad more. You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to put the nut back on, so if this thing pops, it won't pop completely off and go flying. Okay, at this point it's probably a good idea to wear some sort of safety glasses or even a face mask, because you don't know what's going to happen when you pop this thing. Alright, let's see what happens. I'm going to use an impact wrench on this because I don't really want to use a pry bar on the fins to keep this thing from turning. So, yeah, let's see what happens. There it is, loose. Yep, so this puller, I'm actually not sure what it is. It says Old Forge on it, made in USA 2608. I got it for like $5 at a yard sale. I thought it could come in handy, and I had in mind at the time that maybe it would be a good flywheel puller, so I bought it and it seemed to work pretty nicely. So I had to buy these bolts. These are, I think they're 3-inch grade 8 flange bolts with 1/4 inch by 20 threads. So Briggs & Stratton makes a puller specifically for this that you can buy. I've just been too cheap to buy one, and this setup actually looks like it's going to work really good. Alright, let's see what we got here. Flywheel. And here is a piece of the key. And let's see here. We got another piece in here. There we go. There are the 2 pieces of flywheel key. Sheared right in half. So I'm going to replace that. I have a bag of like 20 or 25 of these. I'm going to replace that. And in addition, I got, let's see if I can get it over here, a new blade adapter. Alright, time for the new blade adapter. That works real well. And for the time being, I am just going to put the old blade back on, the one that hit the curb or hit something, because we are just going to try it out and see if it runs. And then if it does run, I will decide what I am going to do, whether I'm going to replace the blade or whether this one might be able to be saved. Actually, it may be able to be saved. It looks like it was a glancing blow, and it does not look like the blade is physically bent or anything, so that we might actually be able to grind a nice new edge on it and balance it out. So we'll see. Alright. Good and tight for the time being. And if it turns this blade has to come back off anyway. If it turns out that it runs and everything is good, then I'll either replace this or sharpen it, and then I'll torque it to the proper spec. But for now, that should work. Alright, now it's time to reinstall the flywheel key, or install a new one. First, I'm going to make sure that there's no goop left in the keyway on the crankshaft. Like that. Then you want to take your new key along with your flywheel, and you kind of want to position it and kind of work it down like that so that it's flush. And then you take your starter cup and your nut and then run that down, and then I'll bring you back and we'll torque it. Alright, so the way I like to torque these things is to have the blade on, stick a 2x4 through the side chute, and then start turning, and then the blade is going to hit the wood, and the wood is going to hit the frame of the mower, and you will be able to turn your nut on like that. And this torque wrench is set to 60 foot-pounds. That, I believe, is the torque specification for this particular engine. Alright, 60. Let's see. Okay, we're all done here. One thing you want to note when you put it back together is that this tab here you want to interlock. You want the little fingers to interlock, so the two on the outside go underneath of this tin and this one goes over top. If it doesn't, you're probably going to have a lot of vibration and noise when you start it up. Alright, first start. I have no idea what the condition of the carburetor is in, but let's just go for it. A little bit smoky, but it works. It probably got tilted somewhere along the line, and that's what the smoke is from. It looks like there's oil in the cylinder. So we'll let that burn off for a little bit and then clean it up. And then I'm gonna take a look and see what I can do about that blade and see if it's salvageable. That's much better. Alright, well, I ground out the blade so that, you know, it's reasonably sharp and, you know, sharpened and all of that, and it's reasonably balanced, you know, not out of balance more than any other blade that I have. Overall, it's not terrible. It has a little bit of you know, a wave to the cutting edge, maybe right there especially, but it's nothing terrible. And you know, it definitely looks like it was a glancing blow. You know, it wasn't a direct hit that took a huge chunk out of the blade. If that was the case, I would not attempt to reuse it. Because there's no way you could, you know, resharpen it or get it back to the way it was. And I really didn't remove that much material, so, you know, and it's not warped or anything like that. And even before sharpening it, the mower was running, you know, well. It wasn't vibrating excessively or anything like that. So I think that we should be able to reuse this. So I'm going to go install it on the mower and torque it to the proper spec, which is usually around 40 foot-pounds for these mowers. Alright, reinstalled and torqued down to 40 foot-pounds. Let's see how it runs. Alright, it's all cleaned up with the bag. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.